Devin the Dream Haney, he says that Shakur Stevenson would have made more in a fight with himself than his entire career of boxing. Me personally, I'm not quite sure about that. In this video, I will explain why it does not make sense, that particular statement. So please buckle up so we can discuss it. Now, since I am the best in the business and it's not even close, I'm going to let you guys listen to it. Devin Haney did an exclusive interview with Gilly and Wallow, $1 million worth of game. And this is where he made the statements. But I want you guys to hear it and check out the full interview, Gilly and Wallow podcast. Let's get set up and we'll listen to what Devin Haney had to say on the subject. Roll the clip.
You and Shakur.
What about it?
How that's ended?
Come on now. Shakur can't fuck with me. We offered Shakur a fight.
We offered him a fight. You heard that.
We offered Shakur a fight. We offered him a fight.
And he didn't want that.
Did y'all offer him some real money or was it play money?
Man, all the...
So right there, he said we offered him a fight. And Wallow says, did you offer him a real, some real numbers, or was it play money? And then you'll hear the rest.
And he didn't want that.
Did y'all offer him some real money or was it play money?
Man, all this shit at the top level, all this shit is real money. He was gonna make more money in that fight than he ever made in all his fights combined.
Why he ain't
Whoa, see? Whoa, you heard that? Oh, whoa, yo, hold up. Not me, not Marshall. He said he would have made more money. You guys hear? We're gonna play it again.
Did y'all offer him some real money or was it play money?
Man, all this shit at the top level, all this shit is real money. He was gonna make more money in that fight than he ever made in all his fights combined.
Why he ain't take it? Oh, you saying all?
He said, Wallow said why he ain't take it, and he thought and let it process, like, that sound crazy. And he said, hold on. You said more money than all the fights in his career. So Devin said this, and the host, Wallow, once it processed, he was like, wait, because that sound crazy. Once again.
It's real money. He was gonna make more money in that fight than he ever made in all his fights combined.
Why he ain't take it? Oh, you saying all his fights combined?
All his fights.
So y'all was offering some real paper like that?
Come on now. Listen, all his fights combined, he was gonna make more money.
So Devin stood on business and said it again. He said all his fights combined, he would have made more money in a fight with me
than he ever made in all his fights combined. Real money. He was gonna make more money in that fight than he ever made in all his fights combined.
Why he ain't take it? Oh, you saying all his fights combined?
All his fights.
So y'all was offering some real paper like that?
Come on now. Listen, all his fights combined, he was gonna make more money.
That probably had nothing to do with him if he turned it. No, because he's an animal. I don't know.
All his.
So Wallow is in disbelief. You hear him after Devin stood on business, said it again, and the host Wallow, he's like, nah, that can't be true. That can't be right. I don't know, because Shakur an animal. He an animal. Like I can't even let it go down like that. What you saying to me doesn't really make sense. And to be real, it don't really make sense to me either. You dig?
Oh, you saying all his fights combined?
All his fights.
So y'all was offering some real paper like that?
Come on now. Listen, all his fights combined, he was gonna make more money.
That probably had nothing to do with him if he turned it. No, because he's an animal. I don't know.
All his fights combined.
That's a lot of money. All his fights? How many fights he had?
Shit.
15, 17.
So you telling me?
And he don't have, Gilly said 15, 17, he got 21 fights. 21, can you do something for me? That's how many Shakur got, 21. So, credit to Gilly, he's just trying to go off the top of the dome, because they're in the setting, they're like, it looks like they're in the middle of a street, like they met up with him and they're in the middle of the street, so they don't have their laptops and stuff to fact check it, but I know, and it's 21.
His fights combined.
That's a lot of money. All his fights? How many fights he had?
Shit.
15, 17.
So you telling me he ain't getting? Come on, man. I ain't going for that, man.
More than that. 20?
20, like 20.
20 what?
20 something.
No, that mean he was gonna make some good money. But
you hear the disbelief in Wallow's voice. He said, "You mean to tell me he wasn't making no money?" Hold on, that don't say, man. I ain't going for that. He literally said, "I ain't going for that."
all his fights? How many fights he had?
Shit.
15, 17.
So you telling me he ain't getting? Come on, man. I ain't going for that, man.
More than that. 20?
Like 20.
20 what?
20 something.
No,
He
that
said
mean
20.
he was gonna make some good money.
All right, so you guys heard it. Now, let the boy cook. Now, for starters, I'm just being real with you. There's a lot of fanboyism in the world of boxing. I give it to you real, give you my honest opinion, hate it or love it. If you love it, subscribe. If you hate it, subscribe anyway, because I know that's what you muff is going to do anyway. So that's it. I'm not here for the fan. I'm just giving you what it is. There's a lot of extremists like channels and content creators. And they love a fighter so much that fighter is perfect and they can do no wrong. I just call it how I see. It's always business. It's never nothing personal. Straight Nino Brown style. The reason why this sounds sketch or sus is, I'm going to break it down. But first, let me show you what Shakur said. Now, somebody posted this interview, and a guy named Hassan, let's see what it says. It says, Gilly and Wallow asked Devin Haney, he tagged him, about him fighting Shakur Stevenson, and bro just lying, saying that would have been the most money he's ever made in his whole entire career combined, instead of just talking about setting up a fight in the future. So this is just like a fan, and this is the interview. Shout out to Wallow, shout out to Gilly, right? Shakur seen this, and he just put crying emojis, right? And he said, cuz gotta be the funniest liar I ever seen. Somebody give my ninja an Oscar, please. He really deserves it. So he's saying he acting. Now, that's their business, but the business of boxing, that's my business. The reason why, and I'm going to take you through some quick math in this video, so stay tuned to the end of the video. Basic arithmetic. So it doesn't matter if you graduated, if you got a GED, let Boxingego take you on a journey. For one, me personally, I don't too much prefer when the fighters are overly talking about somebody else's money. You know what I mean? In terms of, you're not privy to their contract. You don't know what goes behind the scenes. Just the same, I would say the same thing for Shakur. Like, when Shakur is talking, I personally don't recall a time where he pretends to know what Devin got in the Kambosos fight, or what he got versus Loma or Regis Prograis. He doesn't really do that I've seen. And if you guys have seen it, let me know in the comment section. Send me a link and let me know with a link, because I've never seen Shakur Stevenson like overly care. I don't think he cares how much the next fighter is making unless he's fighting them. So credit to Shakur there. I've never really seen him like try to establish the pay scale of somebody else. The closest, I guess you could say, would be Frank Martin. The fallout of that particular fight, you know, he did go on record with Gilly and Wallow as well. And he said something to the effect of, he said that we were offering Frank Martin more than he's ever made. So technically Shakur did the same thing. And when fighters do that, I'm not really a fan of that, because who knows if they got additional monies or whatever. You know, like the UFC, they did a 300K win bonus for Max Holloway. And then he also got the performance of the fight of the night, so he got another 300K. So the commission report might say one thing, but after he got these bonuses and stuff, he re-upped and got, you know, 600K for how it was looking. So me personally, I don't really prefer when the fighters are pretending to know everybody else's pay scale when you're not part of their team. Unless you know, because you're part of their team, you see their contracts, you're their manager, stuff like that. It's kind of weird. So that's not even really my big issue. That's just a pet peeve that fighters do, saying how much the next fighter made. We're going off of like what's being reported in commission reports. So let me explain that angle and why it doesn't sound really believable to me. And hopefully, I told you, stay tuned to the end of this video. This quick math will help you understand where I'm coming from and why I'm not quite sure. So Shakur Stevenson, this is his box rec. He has 21 fights. He's never lost, never drew, and had a draw with anybody. So the man has 21 Can you do something for me? He got 21 fights. Very easy to remember. 1 plus 20, right? Southpaw, 5'8", 21 fights, 10 knockouts. So in 21 fights, you mean to tell me you add up the Edwin De Los Santos, Yoshino, Robinson Conceição, and keep in mind, these are title fights, title defenses, and ranked people. Oscar Valdez, Herring, Nakathila, Toka Khan, Clary, all these fights. And the Devin Haney offer was more than that. So to further illustrate this, I put out this tweet. Please go to my Twitter. It says Devin Haney saying Shakur Stevenson would have made more in his fight offer than Shakur has made in all 21 of his fights put together. It sounds questionable, LOL. How can you confirm this, which I already went over in the beginning of this video? How do you know how much he's getting paid with another promoter? Besides, here's some basic quick math. And the reason I want to do it like this is so you guys can visualize what I'm saying instead of just hearing it. I'm a visual learner, so these visual cues tend to help, right? So these are Shakur's reported purses that I use for this demonstration. In his first title effort versus Joette Gonzalez, remember he was dating Joette Gonzalez's sister, all that, right? That was back in the day at 2019, I want to say, when he was fighting somewhere around there. And he was fighting for a title with Joette Gonzalez. He made $350K. And I'll show you guys where I derived and pulled this information for. That's why I said stay tuned to this video. So 350K title fight, Joette Gonzalez with Top Rank. After that, he fought Jamel Herring, and it's reported he did 1.7. After that, you know, and I'm not going in chronological order naming every single one of his fights. You guys will get what I'm doing in a second. He fought Robinson Conceição. He got $3 million. He fought against Yoshino and he got $3 million. So you see these fights that I have on the screen. That is 4 fights. So with those 4 fights, Shakur is already over $8 million in the bank just with 4 fights. Bear in mind, this does not include Shakur Stevenson being on Terrence Crawford's pay-per-view versus Amir Khan. Now, I don't know what his deal was or anything, but it was a pay-per-view, and he was the co-main event versus Pitbull Diaz, right? Not Eastside Pitbull Cruz. There's another guy named Chris. But he was the co-main. So I would imagine he got some good money to be on a pay-per-view as the co-main event, right? Which we'll get into in a second. Keep in mind, when you look at the list of fights that I gave you the information, which I'll show, it doesn't include names like probably some of his most popular names that he's fight. Not necessarily the most popular fight, because I know people didn't really prefer the Edwin De Los Santos fight. So I didn't even include guys like Oscar Valdez or Edwin De Los Santos fights, or for that matter, any other of his 21 fights other than those 4 fights that you've seen. So I said LOL. Plus, he was hot out the gates. Remember, Floyd Mayweather wanted to sign him. He had a huge interest out the gates because he was a noted U.S. Olympian and he medaled. So it's not the same as somebody started from scratch and they have limited amateur experience, things of that sort. So let's cite the sources, right? It says, given that Sugar, aka Shakur Stevenson, reportedly made $3 million for his last fight against Yoshino, it will be unsurprising to see him take slightly bigger paycheck this time around. Stevenson's win over Robinson Conceição before Yoshino also earned, you see that on the screen, he also earned $3 million, albeit he had to forfeit $150K because he missed weight, which is a whole separate, and I don't even know if he paid it. But so basically in the Conceição fight and in his fight with Yoshino, he's making $3 million, right? So you see, ESPN reporter And I highlighted it so you guys can see it. So you see all the words are white. The thing you need to focus in on is 3 million purse. Shakur agreed to pay $150K from his 3 million purse, and that was to Conceição because he missed weight. So his purse was 3 million, and he lost some of it allegedly because the missing weight. But it's still a $3 million purse. Sources: Shakur Stevenson and Jamel Herring take career high purses tonight. So when he fought Jamel Herring in Atlanta, there's Shakur's purse, right? Dan Raphael, in case you need a different reporter, this is from the Joet Gonzalez fight. Stevenson made $350K. So I just want to show my work because I'm the best in the business. So that's where all these numbers came from. These were actually reported numbers, which leads me to the additional math. So just with 4 fights, we're already over 8 million. And it doesn't stop there. But wait, there's more. So let's get started on that math, shall we? So his first title, he got 350,000, right? 350,000. That was with Joet Gonzalez. The 4 fights, that's what we're going over. Joet Gonzalez, 350K. Jamel Herring, he got 1.7 million for Jamel Herring. 1.7 million, right? After that, he fought Robson Conceição for 3 million. And he fought Yoshino for 3 million. Boom. So you guys see, like I said in my tweet, Shakur's already over 8 million in 4 fights. Keep in mind, Floyd wanted to sign him, and he signed to Jay Prince, Top Rank. He was working with Andre Ward. So, and he's an Olympian. So there was an interest in him to begin with. So in 4 fights that I just showed you, he's already made over $8 million. So Devin saying in 21 fights, Shakur would have made considerably more than all those fights. So follow me. So in the 4 fights I mentioned, he's over 8 million. After Joet Gonzalez, he fought against Felix Cabrillo, Tokakon Clary. Then he fought the African dude, Jeremiah Nakathila. So we're 3 fights before the one that I listed, which was Jamel Herring. So that's 3 more fights. And he was a champion in those fights because he beat Joet Gonzalez. I was at that fight in Reno. So I really want to say that would probably be, this is just a little bit of estimation. If he made 350 to become a champion, he was making that or more. But to be safe, we'll just say he made 350K 3 more times before he fought Jamel Herring, right? So we were at pretty much 8.1. Well, actually, we'll do it like this. 350K times 3 more fights, that's $1 million. Plus, we were already at 8 million and change. So we're already up to 9. Now, if he was making $3 million to fight against Yoshino, and he was making $3 million to fight against Robson Conceição, which those were, especially Robson Conceição is the better name. Neither one of them are big names. So if Top Rank was paying him $3 million for those fights, what do you think he got for Oscar Valdez? What do you think he got for a fight with Edwin De Los Santos, which is his very last fight? So that's at least another 6 million. At least, because let's say he got 3 million a piece again. And I'm actually, in this guesstimation, I'm undercutting it because Oscar Valdez is perhaps maybe Shakur's biggest name. And even the Edwin De Los Santos fight, a lot of people wanted to see it. It didn't turn out to be the best fight. So you look at it, that's another potential 6 million with my guesstimation. Shakur is already at 15 million that he made. So Devin is alleging that Shakur would have definitely and definitively made more than he's made. Now, this is kind of what Wallow was like, hey, I don't know. I don't know. Shakur's a beast, so I don't know about that. So in a handful of fights, we're looking at over 15 million that Shakur has made. And that's just from what's being reported. Bear in mind, as I said at the beginning of this video, Shakur Stevenson has 21 fights. So I didn't include all 21 of his fights. And he didn't fight for free in those fights. So some of them, let's say some of the early fights, he getting 150K. You have to keep adding those. What Devin said was Shakur would have made more money in the one fight guaranteed than all of his fights put together. I don't know. I don't know about that, because here's the thing. Ryan Garcia is a big name, and it looks like tickets are moving slow. Devin hasn't put up Canelo type of pay-per-view numbers. He hasn't done like Ryan Garcia versus Tank numbers. So whatever you offered him, how much could it really be when you don't have an actual track record yourself of being a pay-per-view bona fide star? You see what I'm saying? There's different opinions on the Regis Prograis number, but some as low as 30,000. The other reports were saying like 55,000. So Shakur versus Devin is a real technical fight. Who's to say in 2024 that would be a big fight? Because there's a lot of boxing fans that they think that boxing hardcores make mega fights, but there's only but so many hardcore, diehard, everyday boxing fans that watch everything. That'll watch like the Jared Anderson card over UFC 300, or as opposed to going out and stuff like that. There's only a certain amount of fans for that. So whatever Devin offered Shakur Stevenson, I highly doubt it's more than he's made in his collective career, because from my estimation, some with actual reported numbers, Shakur has made some coin in the sport of boxing. So Devin not having like a network deal, how could he have offered Shakur Stevenson like what was the number? And here's the thing, Team Haney has continued to say he would have made more in this particular fight. And here's the thing, that fight would probably be on pay-per-view. So there would probably be an upside for both fighters, right? There'd probably be an upside for both fighters, right? But you can't guarantee somebody until the pay-per-view numbers come in. Like Regis Prograis. Regis Prograis just did an interview with Mill City Boxing, and Regis Prograis just said that he don't know what the pay-per-view numbers, because he doesn't think they hit the threshold to the point where it kicked in where he got paid. So who's to say how much? Yes, Devin Haney and Shakur is more sought out, but who's to say that's a big fight right now that people, so you can't what I'm saying is your offer can't promise somebody pay-per-view money and you don't know what the pay-per-view numbers are. Because just think of it like this, in boxing, who would even throw a pay-per-view if they knew it was destitute to fail? Like, no one's gonna really do that. No one's gonna really throw on a pay-per-view and have it fail if they knew for a fact it was gonna fail and they would lose big time money. So it just doesn't make sense to you can't really promise somebody a pay-per-view number because you don't know how people are gonna spend, right? That's just the nature of it. So what could you have offered other than a strong guarantee and then say, hey, you'll make up to this on pay-per-view, and you could show somebody a scale. Hey, if we do X amount of pay-per-views, if we do 500K, you'll make this much. If we do over $1 million, you'll make this much. But again, you still have to hit those metrics to trigger any of that. And you don't really know. So without that, that means the guarantee has to be so fat that it's over 15, 20 mil or whatever. If you're saying that Shakur Stevenson, all of his 21 fights combined wouldn't equal to whatever you offered Shakur. And bear in mind, Devin Haney's team, they already are on record saying that it was a 75-25% split. So with a 25 split, I've already came up with Shakur, estimated he's earned over $15 million in a handful of his fights. Not even his whole catalog. I didn't go through every single fight because all the stats aren't available. But in about 6 fights or 8 fights, maybe, I was able to come up with probably a strong estimate of 15 million plus. And then those other little ones would add up like earlier in his career, right? So what kind of guarantee could Devin Haney have offered with no network deal? What network would this be on? Because Top Rank is Shakur's promoter up until July when he fights Artem Harutnyan. It just, to me, it's not really making sense. So in this old tweet, Devin Haney says Top Rank offered Shakur to make nothing higher than $3 million for the next 3 years. I would want to take that 25% now too. So this was from March 17th, 2024. I'm going to read it again. Top Rank offered Shakur to make nothing higher than $3 million for the next 3 years. I would want to take that 25% too. But the thing that doesn't make sense is how can Top Rank offer Shakur $3 million, no more than $3 million for the next 3 years? Keep in mind, he just sent that in March, to make $3 million, no more than $3 million for the next 3 years. But his contract is up in June or July or whatever it is. I made a video about it. But this summer, his contract will be up after one more fight. Once again, I'm going to show you on the screen. Top Rank offered Shakur to make nothing higher than $3 million for the next 3 years. But how can Top Rank do that if his career may not be with Top Rank after the summer? That's up to Shakur. How can Top Rank, like, they would, if he goes to Eddie Hearn and DAZN, or if he goes to PBC or does something else, he tries to fight in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I don't know what his plan is. But I'm saying is, like, how can they control you if you're no longer under their umbrella after the summer, which Shakur hasn't disclosed what his next move is. Anyway, so that doesn't make sense either. Anywho, Shakur says, nah, I'm not going to take 25%, but you knew that already, bruh. Be realistic. Shakur said this July 1st of 2023. So again, Devin is continuing to say that Shakur would have made more in the one fight with him, guaranteed, than his whole 21 fights. And that sounds very unlikely if he's making $3 million versus Yoshino, $3 million versus Conceição, whatever he made with Edwin De Los Santos and Oscar Valdez. How could you have offered him a guarantee of something crazier than that? Because I've already estimated in a handful of fights, like I've said throughout this video, he's made over $15 million in a handful of fights, more than likely, right? Furthermore, the other thing that doesn't make sense, Bill Haney, Devin Haney's father and trainer, Bill Haney, said that they offered $20 million to Tank Davis. That was the initial thing that the Haneys said, is they offered $20 million to Gervonta Davis. So at 25%, the Haneys are saying that Shakur will make more guaranteed in the one fight with Devin than 21 fights put together, which sounds crazy, which is why Wallow, again, was like, hold on, that sounds crazy. What was Shakur making before to have 21 fights and then this one fight blowed out the water? Again, you can't bank on pay-per-view if you don't know what the number is going to be. But then back to the Tank angle, you offered, Bill Haney said they offered Tank $20 million. So if you're saying you offered Shakur more in one fight than he's made in 21 fights, how could that be when I'm showing you he's made over $15 million in a handful of his fights? So what could you have offered him that is more than all of his fights put together, but then not more than what you offered Gervonta Davis? That don't make sense. Because we know Gervonta Davis in the pecking order is up here. So if you offered him $20 million, but then you're also saying at 25%, you offered Shakur Stevenson more than 21 fights than he's made in 21 fights, but he's made over $15 million from my estimation. And some of it, again, is the actual numbers that were reported, which I've shown throughout this video. The math ain't mathing. That doesn't make sense. And because Shakur had a bad performance, because Shakur Stevenson is fashionable to like certain fighters and is fashionable to, I guess, condemn other fighters, people are going to just run with it, but you got to make it make sense. And that's where I'm coming from. So for me, if you offered Shakur 25% of what? When you don't have a network deal. But beyond that, if you offered him 25%, how can you also be saying that within that 25%, he'll make more than he's made in 21 fights when he's had some pretty lofty paydays versus much lesser, like Yoshino? And this now, like with my logic and what I'm saying, it really kind of explains why Shakur is up here talking about, nah, I'm not going to take no 25%, but you knew that already. Be realistic, because he feels like that would be lowballing me. He's like, yo, that would be lowballing me for me to take 25%. And you offered like whatever you offered, because he knows in his heart what he's made already. So to fight a bigger fight, you got to make the numbers make sense. You know what I mean? Like if David Benavidez is fighting Canelo, he should have a career high payday in the Canelo fight. But if Canelo don't want to fight him, that's why Canelo offered him $5 million. And he's like, man, I have bigger paychecks fighting Andrade and fighting Caleb Plant than what Canelo offered me. But we were still down to take it. But David Benavidez, that's different. He willing to take the low ball number because he feels he's going to absolutely destroy, because he's an aggressive fighter with power, bigger than Canelo. So he feels he's going to destroy him. And he thinks like, man, my career will take off to new heights. So he was even willing to take the low ball. But you can't get mad at someone for not taking the low ball when they've been making, like, it's just what it is. Like for me as a YouTuber, I know how much I make. So if I get an offer for a brand deal and it's not worth my time, it's that simple. It's a business. You know what I mean? If I know how much I'm getting for my other affiliations and other brand deals, and then somebody wants me to do more work or harder work and then get paid less, doesn't really make sense. So yeah, what Devin said doesn't really make sense to me.